We are continuing to remember the life of the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her impact on the United States went farther than just the Supreme Court. She also became a cultural icon.
It was beyond my wildest imagination that I would one day become the notorious RBG. It is amazing. And I am soon to be 87 years old, and everyone wants to take a picture with me.
She became a household name in 2013 when she butt heads over the decision to remove voting rights protections. From then on, she became the woman known as the notorious RBG, inspiring memes, Saturday Night Live skits, movies, and documentaries. One of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's closest friends was also one of her biggest intellectual debating opponents. Late Justice Antonin Scalia was a staunch conservative, while Justice Ginsburg was one of the court's left-leaning judges. And despite all of this, the pair maintained a close relationship outside of the courtroom. They traveled and had parties together, and Ginsburg referred to Scalia as, quote, her best buddy. Justice Scalia's son, Chris Scalia, joins me now for more on this remarkable friendship between his father and Justice Ginsburg. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Will you talk to us a little bit about what Justice Ginsburg meant to your father and to your family?
Well, they were friends for a very long time. They were on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals even before they were on the Supreme Court together. So their friendship went back I think they first met in the late 80s. And as you mentioned, they didn't agree on much politically or legally, but they had a lot of other things in common, and they just kind of chose to focus on those things. For example, they shared a love of opera. They even kind of made cameo appearances in operas together. They liked nice wine. Well, I should add that they were born in New York around the same time, different boroughs, a few years apart, but I think they were kind of familiar types to each other. And their spouses were also good friends. Her husband, Marty, was a very good cook, and my father was a very good eater. So I think that was another bond that they shared. And, I think we were all kind of aware that it publicly seemed like an odd couple, but, when they were together, it never felt like that. They made each other laugh. As she said at one point that when they were judges together initially on the appeals court, they sat next to each other, and my dad would whisper jokes to her during arguments, and she would have to pinch herself to keep from laughing and kind of disrupting the courtroom.
People might wonder how this friendship ever came about and how they were able to maintain such a close relationship despite having these diametrically opposed at times views.
Mm-hmm. They just focused on the things they had in common, and I recently learned of a really moving story of when one of my father's former clerks, a judge named Judge Jeffrey Sutton, visited my father shortly before he passed away, and it was Justice Ginsburg's birthday, and my father had purchased 24 roses for his friend Ruth, and he told Jeff he had to leave. He was going to go bring her the roses. And Judge Sutton started teasing my dad. He said, why are you giving her these roses? I've never even given my wife this many roses. What good do you get out of it? I mean, when was the last time she sided with you in an important 5-4 decision? And just kind of poking fun. But my dad said something, I think, pretty poignant. He said, some things are more important than votes, meaning that it wasn't that they compromised their beliefs to salvage their friendship or protect their friendship or anything like that. They obviously held their views very strongly, but they didn't let those very different views undermine their very deep friendship.
Almost a Jefferson-Adams type of friendship in some ways.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can tell us, Chris, what do you think leaders in Washington can learn from the friendship between these two?
I think everybody can learn from the friendship they had, which is to focus on the things that you have in common with people. And again, it doesn't mean that you back down from things you think are very important, but it also means that you recognize that there's a world beyond those things, and you're able to appreciate what you have in common. You know, Justice Ginsburg and my father, when they wrote opinions that were on opposing sides, they would help each other write those opinions and improve those opinions, even when they were on opposing sides. But they, you know, they didn't kind of hold back their arguments against each other either. It's a really tough balance that I think Americans in general, and perhaps politicians in particular, have been struggling with over the past few years, and we're going to be really tested to find that right balance in the months ahead.
Chris, I want to ask you a more personal question. About 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago, you lost your own father. And I'm sure that the passing of Justice Ginsburg has brought up a lot of those feelings. As you know, there was then a very ugly political debate over your father's replacement on the court. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how it felt for you in that moment to be mourning the loss of your father and have this happening in the backdrop as you and your family were navigating all of these emotions.
Yeah, it was a surreal experience, and my sympathies and condolences go out to Justice Ginsburg's children and grandchildren, because if what they're going through is anything like what we went through, it's very strange, because you're dealing, as you said, with that personal grief, and you recognize the importance of the political battle going on too, but it's much less significant. And I don't know how they're handling it, but what I did is I just kind of blocked out the politics for a while, and I listened to people who told me wonderful things about my father and shared memories of him, including Justice Ginsburg. You know, I remember very vividly when I found out Dad died. You know, it was very sudden, and we had maybe an hour window before the news broke, and we just felt kind of sheltered there, because we knew that when the news broke, it was going to be crazy. There was a Republican primary debate that evening, and we just knew it would be an issue then. And it's a surreal experience. I wish the Ginsburgs the best, and I pray for their strength in this.
Chris Scalia, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the memories that you have of Justice Ginsburg and your father, the late Justice Antonin Scalia. I think that their friendship is an inspiration for all of us in this polarized moment, and we appreciate you coming and sharing all of that with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much.